All right, welcome everybody. This is the Ann Arbor Real Estate Investors Club. As I just said, there are a few new folks on the call today, and several veterans who have been on the call who I've known for a while, who are all good to know. And as I also just mentioned a minute ago, I'm teaching. Today is the first of a series of 13 fundamental classes that I'm teaching in sequence over the next 13 weeks, over the next 13 Saturdays. You know, I ask you to put an asterisk on that because there might be a Saturday or two where I need to change the lineup and I might not be able to make it, but I'm going to do my best to make it up if I happen to make it. But life happens. I'm doing this all by myself, so I got to be prepared for any eventuality. So that's us. So this is kind of my disclaimer that I put up, and I put it up, you know, just to kind of open your eyes from the get-go that real estate is a challenging business. Real estate investing is a challenging business. I don't put this on to discourage you. I don't want to be negative. I want to be positive because I've been doing it for 19 years, so I learned to be positive. But this slide often is for me, for me as well as it is for you, because you are going to get knocked down in this business, especially those of you who are brand new. You don't know, and you don't know what the world is like that you're entering. So I'm here to tell you that you will get knocked down. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, but it's a matter of doing your best to prepare yourself and build resilience. And how do you build resilience? Well, you build resilience by having a solid written business plan, which you're going to have. That's the focus of today's session. And when you have that written plan, and then when something bumps you off the rails, you can take a breath and take a time out and say, wait a second, I've got a plan. I've got my eyes on this plan. This might be a, short derailment. It might be a bump in the road. It might be a bug on the windshield, but I'm going to get through it because I've got my eyes on the prize. I've got my written business plan. But when life happens and when things get you knocked down, sometimes it's hard to get up. But I'm telling you that I'm here to help you. This group is here to help you. We've got a great group of people who you will connect with. Those of you who are new, those of you who are not new, know that, to help and support you and help smooth out the bumps in the road. So that's my disclaimer for this morning. The membership in the Ann Arbor Real Estate Investors Club it's about learning, networking, and deal making. This I call the trifecta of real estate investing. And this is, I've honed these concepts over the 15 years I've been running this group. That this is what the business boils down to: learning, networking, and deal making. That's the real, kind of core fire in your belly that you really need to do, or really need to have to do this business. 3 steps to start today. So following on that theme of learning, networking, deal making, following on that trifecta, every successful real estate investor will tell you that they are addicted to learning, that there's no point where you graduate and you get a certificate and you say, I know it all, I don't need to learn anymore. You always need to learn, and you need to kind of have an insatiable desire to keep learning new things. And you always, I've been doing it 19 years. I learn new things every day, and I seek to learn out more new things every day, because I know that even with all I know and the experience I have, I'm only one guy, and what I know and what my experiences are a fraction of what other people have. So you kind of need to develop that mindset and to develop that appetite for learning. Commit to growing your network. All right. One of the mantras of the group is your network equals your net worth. And you are really only, you can't do this business alone. And you're only as good as your network, and your network is other investors where you're going to get deals from, how you're going to execute deals, all those kind of things. Your network is just not just your power team. That's part of it. Okay, but you need to commit to growing your network. Your network can never be too big, and it can never be too strong. So that's another constant, like breathing, and then the third is BOLO, become a deal junkie, depending on your plan that you're going to create, starting today, or, you're going to need a pipeline of deals of some type. And you need to BOLO, be on the lookout every day, because you never know where that deal will come from. It might come from your network, it might come from learning, it might come through an unsolicited email, it might come from any direction, but you have to be on the lookout for it, and you have to aggressively and proactively pursue it as an investor if you're going to execute your business plan. Okay. I talk about the fundamentals. I've created this whole sequence of the 13 topics as what I consider the fundamentals. This is my version of it. As I said, I'm just one guy who's got 19, almost 20 years of experience in this. And I like this saying that, if you get the fundamentals down, the level of everything you do will rise. When you learn the fundamentals, okay, the fundamentals are what you have to do to execute this business. But learning the fundamentals and getting better at the fundamentals, it's like any area of your life or any sport. I use a lot of sports analogies in my trainings, that, the level of everything you do rises, your level of confidence rises. If you're confident in the fundamentals and then some curveball comes your way, you're confident enough to handle it and not let it destroy you, okay, because you've learned the fundamentals. And I hope that makes sense to you. So these are the fundamentals. I encourage you to jot these down. I'm going to give you a little test at the back end on the cheat sheet. And again, this is my list, because this is stuff that I deal with on a regular basis, if not a daily basis, all the time. And this is what I deal with. And this is what I think most people in the real estate investing world deal with. So I encourage you to jot these down, and then find ways to, again, be addicted to learning, more and more about each of these topics. And as I say, I'll give you the cheat sheet at the back end if you happen to be somewhere where you can't jot something down. But these are the things that you should really, become ingrained in you, and part of, I always use the term, have it become part of your DNA, part of your daily natural activity, where you have a good working knowledge of what's involved around each of these topics, so you are better prepared when you enter the marketplace. So today's objectives, I'm going to take a sip of coffee, and I'm going to take a time out here, and I'm going to ask you to congratulate yourselves here for a minute. All right, just for a moment. Congratulate yourselves for taking the time, making the commitment, coming here to join me, which is really a commitment to yourself to improve yourself, create a real estate investing business for yourself or career, Do better for yourself, do better for your family, and you're taking that first step today. So you should congratulate yourself, and I thank you, and I'm humbled that you've come. So, all right, with that timeout, I'm going to say today's objectives. I'm going to encourage you to start journaling. I don't know if you do this, you know, some of you, I don't know you well enough to know whether you do this or not, but journaling really, and again, so a lot of the stuff I share is stuff that has impacted me in, you know, either a positive way or a negative way, and you can learn from my experience. But I can really say unequivocally is that journaling, I've really I've been doing it for about 13 years. I've really only gotten serious the last couple years, or what I vision myself as serious. This is really a life-changing exercise and a life-changing activity for me. It has been for me. And I'll tell you why, you know, with one big reason, but lots of smaller reasons. But number one, we are all overwhelmed with information from multiple sources, you know, all day, every day. You know, how many tabs do we have open in our brain, you know, like our computer? So journaling, putting stuff down in your own hand, translates what's in your head out. You know, it gives you focus and clarity. That's what I'll say. That's what it has helped me with. I think it will be your most valuable tool in your real estate investing career. And I encourage you, you know, today's a new day. It's April 1st, new day, new month, new quarter. Go out today, buy yourself a journal, spend 10 or 20 bucks on a really nice leather bound journal or something, get yourself a nice pen and start journaling. Journaling your thoughts, journaling your decisions, journaling your goals, journaling your strategies, journaling the steps you take to execute them. What works, what didn't, why would you do something differently? Would you do, you know, would you do more of it? Whatever, it really helps with clarity and focus. So that's my selling point on a journal. Today, I'm going to ask you to establish a baseline. Again, what do you do? You know, when I was in business, and those of you who have been in business before, you know, no matter kind of what business it is, you know, the first, what's the first thing you do on the first of the month? Well, you kind of take inventory. You take inventory of where you are. You know, you count the cups on the shelf or the cans of beans on the shelf. You know, what do you have? What's your starting point? Establish your baseline. All right. And how, you know, how did it compare to last month, last year? And then where do you want to go compared to where you've been and where you are? It's that kind of simple mindset, you know, simple concepts to get going. So you're going to establish your baseline. You're going to start a journal. You're going to establish your baseline. We're going to create what I call SMART goals. Perhaps you've heard that acronym before. It's likely you have if you've ever read a book or taken a class on goal setting. We're going to create a written plan, you know, a pretty detailed plan. My friend Bill Burns introduced me to a term several years ago that I'd never heard before, but it really stuck with me when he said it. You know, you need to get granular. Okay. And that's really a good visual that, you know, sometimes you need to get granular. Sometimes you get too granular and you get distracted from the bigger picture. But I want you to think about creating a plan that's granular. And when I say granular, I mean something where you can take a positive action every day, you know, one grain, you know, every day. And then before you know it, you know, you'll have your beach kind of a situation. Take action every day, no matter how big or no matter how small. As long as you're moving forward, you're going towards your goals. All right. So this is one of the cliches I like to use, and especially, you know, when I talk to a lot of people who join this group or want to start in real estate, one of my first conversations is, well, what do you want to do, or where do you want to go? Well, a lot of people don't know, and that's all right. That's fine. But sooner or later, you need to pick a lane and you need to start. And you need to take positive steps down one particular path. All right. You can't go down, you can't, you can't chase, the person who chases two rabbits doesn't catch either of them. So you got to pick one. You can always change. You're the boss of your life and your business, so you can always do that. But I encourage you to discipline yourself to pick a lane, pick a place to start, pick a road to go down, rather than standing there trying to decide which road to go down. And you might wait a year or 2 years, 3 years, 4 years before you decide to take down a road, or you don't go down any road. So Alice in Wonderland, Alice came to the fork in the road, saw the Cheshire Cat in the tree. Which road do I take? She says. Where do you want to go? He asked. I don't know, Alice answered. Then it doesn't matter. If it doesn't, there's so much material in real estate investing. You'll be overwhelmed by studying, and you kind of get the mindset of, well, I'm not smart enough. I need to learn more. I need to take another class. I need to read another book. I need to listen to another podcast. I need to do this, and then I'll know. No, you've got to dive in and go. So that's all I'm going to say about this one. Start a journal. I talked about that in the earlier slide. There's lots of great YouTube videos on how to journal, what to journal, what kind of pen to buy, all that kind of stuff is out there. But think of journaling as a lifelong pursuit. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no requirement of what you've got to have in it. And that's part of the joy and part of the value you get out of it. But I could go down that road, but I'm not going to elaborate on that anymore. All right, establish a baseline. So here's when I start looking at real estate investing, or any type of new venture or new business or whatever. What's the first thing I do? The first thing I do is, all right, well, you look at Wikipedia, you Google this, you Google that, but I want to start to study people who are successful in the field of endeavor that I'm looking to learn more about and looking to potentially do. What do the successful people do? What do the most successful people do? Well, I know that in real estate investing, the most successful people have a plan. All right. I give the example of my office, my real estate office, Real Estate One in Ann Arbor. There's about 80 agents in the office. We're all independent contractors. So we have an office manager. He's sort of our boss, but he doesn't tell us what to do or how to run our business. He's there to support us. But he's big, and this is how I learned to do it. He's big on having goals and having a plan. And he asks everybody, to do a plan and do it on your own, do it every year. And year after year after year, you can rank the real estate agents in my office from number 1 to number 80 as to who makes the most money, basically 1 to 80. The top quartile all have written, granular business plans. The ones in the bottom quartile have no written plan. There you go. It's in writing. So that was enough for me, and that is enough for me, because that's proof. Proof is in the pudding. Is the most successful people have a written plan. Therefore, hey, maybe it's a good idea that I have a written plan if I want to be successful. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, You read the books. I read the book. I read the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. It's like this group's Bible. I'll tell you more about it at the back end. It has interviews with 100 very successful real estate investors. What is another common denominator that they all do? They all have a net worth sheet. They have a sheet, one sheet of paper that has their net worth on it. And that is like their scorecard. That's how you measure your success. You measure it by your net worth, because that's what all these successful investors want to do, is grow their net worth. All right. You can also measure it by doors and cash flow and that kind of stuff. But the number one for today is net worth. So I'm going to invite you to take, if you have not done this before or don't do this before, again, start simple. I'm not going to give you a template. I'm not going to give you a website. I'm not going to give you a piece of software about a net worth sheet. Take another blank sheet of paper, all right? On the left side, assets. On the right side, liabilities. That's part of your homework. Assets, cash in hand, stocks, 401k, your car, whatever you can liquidate to get cash. Real estate, if you own real estate, obviously, that's what we're here for. Those are assets. Liabilities, obviously, if you own a mortgage, you have credit card debt, if you have medical debt, if you have student debt, whatever debts you have on the right-hand side, okay? If you've never done this before, the first time you do it, if you're not really a good financial manager or the best, it's kind of eye-opening, and maybe, when you open your eyes, you don't want to see it. But again, it is what it is, and it's your baseline. Whatever it is, it is. And the idea is you have your baseline. And when you have that number, when all the smoke clears at the bottom of it, your goal, should obviously be to increase that number, decrease the liabilities, increase the assets. Okay. And then you're going to set goals in time chunks that is going to match up with the number you want to grow. All right. This is kind of elementary stuff. But it is very valuable. It's very powerful when you see it in black and white. And you can focus on it, and you can take steps to, again, reduce the liabilities and increase the assets. So that's your baseline. So when you establish the baseline, now you know where you are. All right. So you are at where? Point A. You're at point A on Saturday, April 1st, 2023. And I want you to think, when you're writing a plan, the 10,000-foot view is, think in terms of a 4-phase real estate investing career. And I got this 4-phase career. I didn't make this up. This is from the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And I think it's good. And I say, well, again, the light bulb goes off in me. If I want to be a millionaire real estate investor, I got to do what the millionaire real estate investors do, right? Okay. So buy the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller, and it goes into all the particulars of the 4-phase plan. I've got a cheat sheet on it as part of today's cheat sheet. But there are 4 phases in the Millionaire Real Estate Investor are: think $1 million, buy $1 million, own $1 million, receive $1 million. All right. And it's a pretty powerful plan in its simplicity. It's really beautiful in its simplicity. And I encourage you to read about it. And, if it grabs you, do it. That's all I can tell you on that today. Set SMART goals. Hopefully, you know what SMART goals are. If you don't, I'll introduce you to them. Okay. because, when you come into real estate investing, and this happens often, I meet somebody new and I ask them, oh, what's your goal? Oh, to make a lot of money. No. Okay. Well, that's not a goal. All right. That's a dream. And you saw the graphic that I put on the intro to this event, that a goal without a plan is just a wish. It's a wish. That's not a goal. And it's not specific, because how do you know what's a lot of money? A lot of money to me might not be a lot of money to you, or vice versa. So here's where we start to get granular, and we make it concrete, and we write it in stone, or we write it on paper. We don't write it in stone. SMART goals. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-based. Okay. It gives it life. Making your goal a SMART goal is a discipline, but it breathes life into your goals. So if you say, I'm in real estate, I want to make a lot of money. Well, what's a lot of money? Is it $1 million? Is it $10 million? Whatever that number is to you, that's your number. All right, that's specific. I want to make $10 million. That's measurable, 10 million. I want to put $10 million in my bank account. Is it achievable? Well, now we'll see. Now you got to be realistic with yourself. All right. Is it achievable and realistic? Is it achievable? Sure, because other people have made $10 million in real estate investing. Why can't I do it? Is it realistic? Well, maybe, is it time-based? Well, I want to make $10 million by the end of the year. Well, yeah, that's time-based, but is that achievable and realistic? Okay, you've got to answer that question for yourself. Nobody else can answer that for you. But if you equate it with something like the real world, like let's say, for example, I want to, if I want to lose weight, I want to lose 30 pounds. Okay, I want to lose 30 pounds by next Friday. Well, that's specific, that's measurable, that's time-based. But is that achievable and realistic? Well, no, it's not, because it just doesn't work that way. All right. Same way with building a plan. The achievable and realistic part, that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. So you have to create a goal, put your goal through this SMART filter, and then what we do is we reverse engineer it. All right. You say, I want to make $10 million, in 10 years, whatever it is. I want to make $10,000 in passive income by, April 1st, 2030. Okay, now we're talking. Okay, because that's a big goal. It's like an elephant goal. And now we reverse engineer it. All right, from April 1st, 2030, we're going to reverse engineer it. April 1st, 2029, April 1st, 2028, 2027. You get the idea. We're going to reverse engineer it from the big goal. We're going to chunk it down to an annual goal. We're going to chunk those down to a quarterly goal, chunk those down to a monthly goal, to a weekly goal, to a daily goal. You get the idea. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of machinations. But you say, Brian, that's a lot of work. That's too much work. And then I think about it when I'm thinking about how I'm going to explain this. I say, you're looking to create a career. You're looking to create something that you're going to spend a lot of your days on earth doing. Okay. And how can you not want to plan for it? I mean, we say people spend more time planning a vacation than writing a business plan for real estate. And I bet you would find that's probably true with a lot of people. But you guys aren't a lot of people, because you're here, and they're not, so you guys are serious. You got to put your goals through the SMART filter, and that's a discipline. All right. But this is something, again, that's ongoing. Create a plan. Think in terms of the 4-phase career that I just talked about at the top, and you're going to read the book and learn more about it. Assign dates, reverse engineer. All right. Then when you reverse engineer, and you've got your goals broken down into, now we're getting granular. When we're getting monthly, weekly, daily, you need to schedule it. Okay. You need to schedule these little chunks. Write them down in your calendar and write them down in your day timer or whatever you use to schedule your day and your appointments and your commitments and your other things that in your life. You've got to chunk it. You've got to write it into your day timer. This is time management. Then you've got to make it non-negotiable. All right. You cannot write a business plan for real estate and then say, well, I'll do it when I have time. Okay. We all know that you never have time. There's never enough time unless you make time for it. It's the same way. Oh, I need to exercise more. I'm going to exercise more this year. Well, when are you going to do it? Well, I'm going to do it when I have time. I don't have enough time to exercise. Well, guess what? You and I each have 24 hours in a day. We've got the same amount of time. The most successful real estate investors and you, what do you have in common? You both got 24 hours a day. You both have the same amount of time. It is just a matter of priorities. And you have to write it down. And if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. You have to do it. You have to schedule it. You have to make it non-negotiable. And again, whatever it is for that particular day, if it's, I'm going to read a chapter of this book, or I'm going to look at such and such a webinar, or whatever it is, time block it, commit to it, and use it as a building block. All right. Elements of your plan. I'm going to walk you through this when I go through the handout, but these are the basic elements of your business plan. And again, these are topics that you need to continue to bake into your DNA and have it part of, have it top of mind, because all the decisions you make, I'll use the term granular again, all the granular decisions you make throughout the day and throughout the week, should plug up into these big elements of your plan. All right. And so these are the basic elements of a business plan. And the purpose of a business plan, as I told you at the top, is the business plan is primarily for you. And it helps you get focus and it helps you get clarity. But the plan is also valuable for as a tool is when you have that focus and when you have that clarity, you can better communicate that to your network, to your power team, and primarily, lenders, especially if you're using OPM or other people's money in your real estate investing. You need to communicate to them what your plan is, what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, who you're going to do it with, all of those elements, because a lender is going to want to know that stuff because they're in risk management and they need to have confidence in you that you know what you're doing, number one, and number two, that you have confidence in yourself that, you have a plan, you have a detailed, granular, written business plan. You know what you're doing. You're a serious business person doing serious business, and you have confidence in yourself. And if you have confidence in yourself, that makes me the lender or potential partner or potential, whomever, service provider, makes me want to work with you. If I know you know what you're doing, and I know that you have a burning desire to accomplish what you want to accomplish, I want to help you do that. That's kind of the nature of this whole thing when it's all boiled down. So I want you to write these topics down while I take a sip of coffee. And these are the elements that I've got a bunch of questions under each heading that are part of this business plan template that I'm going to tell you how to fill in the blanks on. But this is it. An executive summary, which is your experience, which your experience grows every day. Every day you're doing something in the business, you're gaining experience. It's like, you want to be a swimmer. All right. Every day you're in the pool, you're becoming a better swimmer. If you're not in the pool, you're not becoming a better swimmer. All right. You get the idea. Executive summary, market analysis. We're going to start on that next week, but that's a whole world into itself. Implementation. How are you going to do what you want to do and what you say you're going to do? Exit strategies. What are your exit strategies? That's a big element of the real estate investing business. Financial projections. Again, that's the scorecard. That's where the rubber meets the road. When you're talking to lenders, they really kind of don't care about the other elements as much as they care about this one, because that's what they're in the business for, and that's their element of focus, and that's their specialty. So you've got to have that. And then assumptions. You've got to make reasonable judgments, because the real estate market is fluid, and it is really, the changes I've seen in the 19 years compared to coming in, you say, well, how much can it change really? It's unbelievable. But anyway, executive summary, market analysis, implementation, exit strategies, and financial projections and assumptions. Schedule it. I did this a couple slides ago. Chunk it down. Chunk your plan down. How do you eat an elephant? Your big goal, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You've got to chunk it down. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming and you'll never do it. And then you'll get frustrated and you'll blame yourself, or you'll blame somebody else when you don't have anybody else to blame, and you've got nobody but yourself to blame, but you're in denial. So chunk it down. Prioritize. Write it in your date timer. I kind of beat the drum on that a couple slides ago. But this is another element that I've got. We all have things running around in our head. I personally use the discipline that, once you write it down and once you share it with somebody else, you're really out of the gate, and you're off to the races. If it's not written down, it's in your head, you're still at the starting gate and you're not going anywhere. You write it down, you share it with somebody. You share it with me. If you got nobody to share it with, you can share it with me. Then writing it down and telling somebody else breathes life into it, breathes life into your goals and what you want to accomplish. And you want to build a team that will help you accomplish it. But if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So when I put pen to paper, it's like when you're signing contracts. When you're buying a piece of property, talk is cheap. But when it's in writing, when it's on a contract, when you put pen to paper, all right, it's real, it's on, let's go. So it's symbolic as well as actual. You've got to write it down to give it life and breathe life into it and give it a chance to actually come to fruition. All right. Here's another saying that I like, that why I teach these classes on Saturday mornings. This is, these are sharpening the axe classes, I call them, and that's how I approach them. Is your you're preparing for chopping down the tree. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. There's a whole story about the, Abraham Lincoln sharpened the axe story that you can Google. That's a fascinating story. But that's what I emphasize. I'm big on planning. I'm big on preparation. And how did I get that way? I got that way from going through life, 10, 20, 30 years without sharpening the axe. And guess what? What happens when you try to chop down a tree with an axe that's not sharp? Figure it out. So that I spent a lot of time trying to chop down trees with a dull axe, let me tell you. That's what I have today for the main bulk of the presentation. So in review, and I do have handouts I'm going to put in the chat and walk through with it. I see some folks have put stuff in the chat. If there are questions, I'll answer them. If I didn't answer them already, I'll go through that in a minute. But I want to review. Start a journal. Prepare your net worth sheet. Create some SMART goals. I've got a SMART goal worksheet in the handout. Create a plan. I've got a plan, so fill in the blanks. Take action every day. Here's what I'm going to, encourage you to do is get this printout, get the handout, print it out on regular old-fashioned tree that somebody chopped down with a sharp axe. Go to a coffee shop like the one I'm in, or go to a library or go someplace you haven't been before where you're away from distractions. Turn your phone over. Don't open up your laptop. Buy yourself a cappuccino or whatever and take a stab at writing a plan. Just take a flyer at it. All right. It doesn't have to be perfect. Consider it your first draft. And, any author will tell you the first draft of what they've written is crap, and make it crap. But, just have at it. Have at it. Give it a shot. And then, set it aside for a day and then think about what you're going to do and what you wrote. And you say, that's stupid. I don't really want to do that. Or, wow, that's really good. How can I pull on that thread and build off that? That's all elements of it. And that's all elements of, developing your attitude and developing your approach. So I encourage you to do that. I can go on and on about any of these topics for a much longer time that I don't want to do. So how to implement what you learned. All right. Not only today, but every day, because I think this is, I'm leading off with 13 sessions. I want you to do, I encourage you to do, I encourage you to do this for every session, not only mine, but whatever class you take, whatever course you take, whatever webinar you go to, whatever book you read, whatever, how to implement what you learn. All right. I've downloaded a lot, and especially over the next 12 weeks, I'm going to be downloading a lot of information in a short amount of time, because that's the best way I've found to do it. Take a minute, take a time out after you log off here, do a debrief of what are your top 3 takeaways of what I learned in the last hour. Make a list of, again, what thread you want to pull, what road do you want to go down further. Yeah, I'm going to go, I've always wanted to go to, Roo's Roost or whatever. I've never been there. I'm going to print this out. I'm going to go there, sit in the corner, have a cappuccino and figure this out. Focus on one thing. Take one thing. All right. Again, if you chase 2 rabbits, you won't catch either one of them. Focus on one thing. Be patient with yourself. This is very difficult. This is a challenge in and of itself. It's a mental mental challenge that I think most people have. Um, give yourself permission to make mistakes. This is where I plug in, the Thomas Edison um, saying that, you know, it took him 10,000 tries to figure out the light bulb. And he said, well, I didn't fail 10,000 times. He goes, I just found 9,999 ways that it didn't work before I found the right way. So it's that kind of attitude. Give yourself permission to make mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes. Give yourself a break. Take action, and take action every day. Small action, big action. You're creating a career. You're creating a business. You're creating something that might create generational wealth. That's what a lot of people get in this for. I want to create generational wealth. I want to be able to hand something off when Gideon blows the trumpet, So take action every day. Additional resources. There's a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. There are also other books in the same series. There's one called Flip. There's one called Hold. Those are great books. Bigger Pockets you should be familiar with if you're not already. You could spend 40 hours a week on Bigger Pockets, taking Bigger Pockets webinars, talking on the message boards, and still not scratch the surface of what they have to offer. It's overwhelming. To me, it's overwhelming, but there's a lot of good stuff there. Investopedia is a good place to, for definitions of things as a starting point. These are not by any means comprehensive. These are just a handful of resources that I recommend that you do. Cost versus value. So I added this slide this morning. I didn't put it on the cheat sheet. And because this is the part of the presentation where I talk about the value of being an active member of this group. And I also, I have stumbled with it for years, but I always try and, come up with a better way to explain it. And I thought, this light bulb popped in my head of cost versus value. And this is another concept. I should do a whole class on it and make a fundamental about it. But I just thought of it this morning, or thought of weaving it in this morning. Cost versus value. So everything, our net worth sheet boils down to the numbers, which is the amount of money, and all the real estate deals we do is all about the money and all about the Benjamins and money in and money out and how much is going to be in my pocket at the end of the day, all of that fun stuff. But what it all boils down to, and this is a concept that we all deal with every day, with everything that we do, with everything that we buy, and everything that we charge for, and everything that we're paid for. It revolves around this concept. And it's the same, this is something you're dealing with every day with real estate investing. And especially if you're doing flipping or BRRRRs or whatever, it's what do I spend and what am I going to get in return? So cost is what you pay. This is the line, write this down. Cost is what you pay. Value is what you receive. All right. This is really powerful. I think I might lead off every class the rest of the way, talking about cost versus value. Because especially when we get to the rehab class, it's, what projects bring the best return? That means what minimal costs bring maximum returns. That's the whole concept. And I plugged the slide in here because I'm going to ask you for $200, all right, to participate as a member of this group. And, you know, the natural thing when anybody asks you for money for anything, well, what am I getting? What am I getting for my $200? And what's the value of that? All right. And I'm giving you I think I'm giving you education. I'm giving you the opportunity to network, and I'm giving you the opportunity for deals, and I'm giving you the opportunity to grow, create a career. Now, what's the value of that? I think it's a lot more than $200. Um, so it's all in how you look at it. And it's, again, like I use the example of swimming or real estate investing. I'm going to use the example here, you know, of education and what has happened in my experience in both as a student and as a teacher. You know, when you're paying for education, you know, you got to bring something to the party to get out of it. It's not, you just can't sit on the other side of the screen and say, oh, that was worth it, or that was not worth it. So here's the example. So if I charge you $200 and you pay me $200 today, and then I never see you again, okay? 6 months from now, somebody asks you, hey, you know, I'm thinking about joining this real estate investors club, and he wants to charge me $200. You know, what do you know about it? Oh, well, I did that and I paid him $200, but I didn't get anything out of it. Well, no, because you gave me the money, but you didn't even attempt to get any value out of it. Okay, so that's it. And then on the other hand, you have people, and I have had people that say, shit, Brian, I wish I had found you before I spent $25,000 on a fortune builders class. All right, that's not to say it's the 25,000 wasn't worth it, because there are people who've taken fortune builders and say 25,000 was a bargain, and because I made 200,000 out of it. I mean, that's the cost versus value, which is the mind trick that you need to discipline yourself with everything you do, you know. And so I'm asking you to invest $200 in yourself as an investment. And what is going to be your ROI? Your ROI is going to be what you put into it. Okay, I can't throw it in your lap and make it happen. I'll meet you where you are. I will help you. I'll encourage you. But I can't want it more than you want it. You've got to participate. You've got to engage. You've got to do the disciplines, and it's not that hard. I mean, it's hard. It's simple, and it's hard, but it's not easy. It's simple. This isn't brain surgery. It's dollars in and dollars out, and it's providing service and, you know, all that other stuff. So I'm beating a dead horse about it, but cost versus value. So every time you're going to hit the pay button on PayPal or whatever, all right, what is really, what's the cost? Well, the cost is the $39 or $200 or $2,000, whatever it is. What is the value I have an expectation of receiving, and what do I have to do in order to get that value, or to make that value worth more to me? And that's where we get into the psychology of money and the philosophy of money and all that stuff, which is another class for another day. So I'm going to bring the train into the station here, and go through, walk you through the handouts, answer questions. We'll maybe have the opportunity to do a little bit of a speed networking and go from there. Next steps, take action. Another thing I encourage you to do when you come to my classes, when you go to any class, when you go to any meeting, have a goal going into that meeting and an action item coming out. That makes the meeting valuable. That makes the class valuable. That makes the webinar valuable. That makes the appointment with the person valuable. Have a goal coming in and an action item coming out. Join the Ann Arbor Real Estate Investors Club. I'm like the mafia. I've got a one-time fee. $200 is a lifetime membership. Makes it really simple for everybody concerned. I'm going to do something different today. I want to more proactively than I have in the past, follow up with you guys who are on the call individually, find out individually where you are and where you are and where you want to go, so I can help you best do that, and take action. All right. You're going to take action by buying a book, printing out the business plan, going, having a cappuccino and writing out the business plan, buying yourself a new journal. That's a long list for a Saturday morning. What do I get for my $200, Brian? Well, you can come to all the Saturday online classes. I'm recording them now, so if you happen to miss one and you want to watch the recording, I'll make that available to you. I will give you I'll give you more than 4, but it's my intent to proactively follow up with everybody every 90 days or so. It's a big thing I'm committing to. I have this group called the Rainmaker Team where we meet in person every other Thursday morning for coffee. And that group is about going upstream to find deals and to, making it rain, meaning, when it's a drought and it's not raining. It's almost getting ready to rain in Ann Arbor right now, but it's not always raining, and sometimes there's a drought, and you need to go upstream. You need to go upstream to be successful in this business because it's so competitive these days. So we do that on Thursday mornings. You're all invited, after you pay me the 200. Networking, and then off-market deals. We have a number of off-market deals that bubble up through the Rainmakers group, and I get wind of a lot of off-market deals because people know I run an investors group, and they'll call me up and they say, "Hey, Brian, I'm in a bind. I need to dump this property. I know you've got a big investors group. Do you have anybody who would be interested?" I get a lot of that, and that happens, and you won't see that on the internet, but that happens a lot. So that's what you get for engaging with the group. More benefits. Yeah. The power team, I'll give you a plug and play power team. I've got a couple power team members on the call. There's several power team members who are at the Rainmakers group. You'll learn more about that as time goes on. If you want to pay the 200, I appreciate it. I don't police it very well. I'm on the honor system. If you come more than twice, I have an expectation that you're going to pony up the 200 is basically where I'm at today. And it's a drop in the bucket. I prefer Venmo or PayPal, but I'll do Zelle, I'll do Cash App. If you want to mail me a check or pay me cash in person, whatever you want to do, that's fine. So I encourage you to add that to your next step. And I am going to do stop that.